This is Volkswagen's Golf GTI. It's a car that's on a hiding to nothing. Why? Because the model it replaces is widely regarded as the best hot hatch in the business. Now, when Volkswagen launched this car more than 30 years ago, they planned to build about 5,000 units. To date, they've built 1.7 million. In Australia, 1 in 4 Golfs is a GTI, despite the fact that they cost about $15,000 more than the standard model. And this car's day of reckoning has arrived because today the world's motoring media descends on Saint-Tropez in the south of France to put this thing through its paces. In terms of pressure, that's a little bit like being the next leg spinner to bowl for Australia. Let's see how it handles it. To look at, the new GTI is not a lot different to the old one. Not a lot different at all. The styling changes are subtle, to say the least. It's got a new grille with a stripe in it, and the fog lights are now vertical strips rather than the traditional round globes. At the rear, the twin exhausts have been separated. There's a new rear diffuser that helps to provide more downforce, and the roof-mounted spoiler has been redesigned as well. But radical revamp isn't a phrase that springs to mind readily. Even the wheels, which look like the dial on an old-fashioned telephone, look the same. Perhaps they've saved their pennies for a cabin overhaul. Or perhaps they haven't. Inside, the new GTI isn't a hell of a lot different either. The distinctive flat-bottom steering wheel has been redesigned with different buttons and more red stitching. A slightly different gear shifter and a redesigned centre console, but it's all very familiar really. Even the trademark tartan cloth remains. Maybe all the action's under the bonnet. Or maybe not. The engine in the new GTI is an improved version of the old engine. It has a modest 8 kilowatts more power, but it's also kinder on the environment, using roughly 10% less fuel. Now, I don't know that saving the planet is front of mind with most performance car enthusiasts, but 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres is pretty impressive for a car that's as quick as this one. One of the key strengths of the old model GTI was the way it could balance cornering ability with comfort. And this new model's taken that concept one step further with an adaptive chassis control system that basically lets you choose from 3 different driving modes: normal, comfort and sport. Now, the comfort mode is ideal for just pottering around town and soaking up those bumps and potholes. But if you want to drive a little bit more enthusiastically, hit the sport button and it'll stiffen up the suspension and sharpen the steering, which is actually a good thing with this Golf because in normal mode, the steering's a little bit vague. Volkswagen's tweaked the GTI stability control system to reduce understeer coming out of tight corners. What the system does now is it detects when the front tyres are scrambling for grip, and it'll apply braking pressure to the inside front tyre to restore the contact with the road. And what that means is that you get more drive out of the corner. Now, I'm not going to kid you and tell you I can really feel those extra 8 kilowatts of power when I put my foot on the accelerator, but the engine still feels really strong, and combined with the manual and the DSG transmission, it all adds up to a really satisfying driving experience. And the sound of that exhaust is fantastic, especially when you come off the accelerator going into a corner and you get this wonderful burble. So there you have it, the new Golf GTI. Now, you'd have to say that Volkswagen hasn't really strayed from a successful formula with this car. The styling changes are subtle, to say the least. It's no quicker in a straight line, and it doesn't feel all that different to drive. But the Golf GTI's never really been about Newton meters or kilowatts or wild spoilers and bonnet scoops. It's been about the driving experience, and the driving experience with this car is just as good as the old one.